Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems and welcome to another edition of Track Walk in MX Simulator. Today, episode number 98. And yeah, this episode is way later than it should have been. More like a week and a day or so late. But because of the lateness of this particular episode, we will actually push episode 99 out to the channel tomorrow as well, so you'll get all the track walks in so that we can do episode 100 on time and theoretically have done a track walk every single week for 100 weeks straight to start the channel. Obviously we'll have missed last week, but we'll just go ahead and we'll count this one as last week because we're doing 2 this week. But anyway, this track is called Randy Raceway, and I said it about as dumb as probably could. And it was made by none other than a professional motocross rider in his own self, Matt Burkeen. Everybody who plays sim regularly, I feel like, knows of or has seen Burkeen around. Really cool kid. He raced, let me think, 6 nationals in 2014. And his best finish in the 250 class was a 21st. He did that 3 or 4 times, I think, and a lot of people in sim kind of tease him for the fact that he was never able to actually score a point. He came so close so many times, but never did. And but he's good. He's a really good, talented rider in real life, and he freaking rips at this game. National champion, Supercross race winner in this game, and built this sick track that I can't seem to ride anymore for some reason. But Burkeen's awesome. He's always so nice to talk to and just a really awesome dude. So I figured I'd ride his track that he released recently because, I mean, it's a pretty gnarly track, and I know that you guys on the channel, you really dig these gnarly, unrealistic moto tracks for a simulator. You like the crazy, non-realistic stuff, which is fine, you know, to each his own. And I was, as I said, riding this a lot better before I started recording, but now I'm riding it like poopy. And so yeah, it's kind of cool to play a track that, you know, an everyday, not every day, but, you know, an actual pro rider has put time into and made for this game. And I don't know if any of you might be thinking the thought that this would be one of the first tracks we've ever seen from a professional motocross rider ever built in a video game. They're not pros anymore per se, but they were at some point, and a few people that I'm going to say are one, Stefan Roncada, who anybody that's familiar with off-road or moto racing games of the last 10 or so years is probably pretty familiar with Stefan Roncada's work. He's actually a level designer at Rainbow Studios now, so a lot of the cool motocross and supercross tracks that you see, including the tracks that MX vs. ATV uses each week for their like virtual track map tracks or whatever. So like Monster Cup, for example, when we see that track preview this weekend for Monster Cup, they will use a track that Roncada built in MX vs. ATV Supercross Encore. So I think that's pretty cool. I got the chance to speak with Stefan Roncada when I was in Phoenix earlier this year. He's a really nice dude, very energetic about gaming and building levels for motocross games, which, I mean, you know, I guess when you grow up watching them race professional supercross, you just never assume that there's that other side to them. But Roncada's a really awesome guy, and like I said, very passionate about motocross games. Continuing on with the theme of professional motocross racers turned track builders, you guys might actually not know, or maybe you do, I don't know, that probably the most famous track creator in MX Simulator and one of the former most famous track creators for Rainbow Studios happens to be a former professional motocross racer. And so anytime you guys feel like picking on him for his track building technique or any other certain reason or whatever, just always remember that this one single man is and probably or was and probably still is faster than you in real life on a dirt bike, and that man is Checkers. So Chris Riesenberg is a former professional motocross racer. He actually did a lot more arena cross than he ever did pro nationals, but he did do a few pro nationals back in 2004 and 5, I want to say. And he worked through the ranks with Cody Gilmore and a few other people up in the Idaho, Iowa area. He says he's ridden and trained with Justin Brayton before, so he's a really, really good rider. He doesn't ride like at all anymore from what I know. Obviously he's the marketing director at Race Tech now. Yeah, if you ever watch some GoPros of Chris ride, you'll be, I think, kind of pleasantly surprised at how much that dude rips on a dirt bike, and did rip in his day. So you guys probably didn't know that. I don't know if you knew that or not. Maybe you did. If you did, then you're just getting the whole spiel that you probably already know. But if you didn't, Mr. Checkers is a former professional motocross racer in real life. So he did pretty much a similar route to Ron Cotta, other than the fact that Ron Cotta was pretty much a top tier pro for a majority of his career. Obviously Checkers wasn't ever to the point where he was like winning races or anything such as Ron Cotta did, but they both still had their own respective pro careers at a point in time, and moved into the level designing repertoire of the gaming world. And Ron Cotta basically took it was long after Checkers left, but Checkers left Rainbow Studios in late 2011 to go to Race Tech, and Ron Cotta was brought into Rainbow Studios in I think it was early 2014 or something like that, when they were starting to, when Nordic bought the MX vs. ATV franchise again, they're starting to build it again. They brought Ron Cotta in. Before that, he had worked for 2XL Games. I don't know if you guys know what that is or not. I'll try to refresh you the best I can in that 2XL Games made the Ricky Carmichael mobile game. And Ron Cotta was a part of that project. I also want to say he was a part of some sort of off-road gaming project at some point. There's actually a few things. If you just search Stefan Ron Cotta level design, you'll find terrains that he has built for these off-road games where there's like full maps and stuff like that. And it's just so cool to see, I guess. Like you grow up and you watch Ron Cotta do battle with David Villemin and Ricky Carmichael and Chad Reed when he was younger and stuff like that, and you just never would have guessed, that they have a passion for gaming just like any of us, So it's really cool, and it was really cool to meet him for sure. But that's kind of my spiel on pro riders, I guess. I know that there are definitely others out there that play games for one, but also contribute tracks and stuff like that, so that's cool. One that I can kind of think of off the top of my head is this guy named J4Cal on the forums. His name is actually James Cohen. He's also a professional motocross rider, I believe based out of New York, or at least in the Northeast somewhere. And he doesn't do so much of the track building, but he does a lot more of model designing, and he's made a few Hondas and Cycloplastics and stuff like that for MX Simulator, so that's kind of cool. Another name that pops into my head, at least from the sim community, is Hector Asuncao, who maybe you have, maybe you haven't heard of him. Ridiculously fast dude in Brazil. I think he's a multi-time Brazilian motocross champion. You usually don't hear his name because he always seems to have contract issues with Honda Brazil not wanting to go to the Motocross of Nations. And so Asuncao has never actually raced in the Motocross of Nations, I don't think, even though he's one of Brazil's faster riders, which is always a shame. But he's contributed a few tracks. Most notably, the ones I can think of are these tracks called HFA MX. I'm assuming that's his initials because it's Hector Asuncao and then whatever his middle name is, F. Not even gonna guess, Fernando maybe, I don't know. But he's contributed to the sim community, and I think that's one of the coolest things that I like about having gotten into the motocross gaming community when I did, and getting notoriety in sim and stuff like I did, is that I've had the opportunity to meet several of these former pro athletes, current pro athletes or whatever, that are interested in video games. And you just, when you're playing these games like that, you just never assume that you would run into people that are interested in these games and stuff like that. And some of the stories that I hear too from you know, like a guy like Matt Burkeen, for example, tell me about some of the games that he plays with his friends that are also pros. You know, I'm sure people might comment on this video and bring up the fact that Aaron Plessinger and Luke Renzland were playing the Luke Renzland compound in MX Simulator on Moto 5 or Moto 6, whichever movie that is. So if you watch those movies, they're actually playing MX Simulator, which is kind of cool. It got it a little bit of notoriety in that movie. But there's just like a myriad of other things that contribute to gaming in general or anything like that. I tend to think of this one moment earlier this year, Joey Savacci, who, if you follow Moto at all right now, you know who Savacci is. He games a lot, mostly not motocross games, mostly like NBA 2K he talks about a lot, or he used to play COD a bunch too. And he'll like actively tweet about it and say like, hey, I'm gonna get on a session of COD tonight, is anybody down? Hit me up at, you know, PS Network name, I forget what it is, I think it's Versace Cervaci or something like that. But somebody, he had tweeted earlier this year, Savacci did, and he said, does anybody know a good moto game that I want to play? And I think he even dissed the MX vs. ATV series at the time. He said something, you know, like, oh, those games are kind of crap. And of course, everybody that is a sim player and also follows Savacci was immediately like, sim, you gotta play sim, gotta play sim. And he tweeted right after that, and he's like, don't even try to come at me with a sim, that game's way too hard, or something like that. So it's kind of funny to see that, you know, someone like him, he's tried it before. And then even me personally, I've had a chat with Will Hahn about playing sim, because he was kind of questioning the virtual laps that we do in sim, and I brought it up to him a little bit. We chatted back and forth, and he was interested in playing. So I don't know if he ever took that opportunity up or not, but I don't know. I guess it's just really kind of cool and unique to know that there's these pro athletes that are, you know, so into playing video games. I know it's going to be probably a much more popular topic, actually, I think, as we grow older, because the games are becoming much more highly developed and more people are wanting to play. So there's actually a lot of top tier amateurs today that play sim, and there's a very good chance that they will, in the future, be, you know, racing professionally at a high level and stuff like that. So again, it's just really unique and cool to see that that's the way it turned out. But you know, back to the point of Burkeen building this track, he's just another fast dude that rips on a dirt bike, that hangs out and plays video games, and, you know, through being connected in the sim community and stuff like that, he's another guy that you can most of the time pretty easily reach out and talk to, and you have a pro athlete basically sitting there, you know, in your backyard, if you will, and you can just go have a chat with them. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to Jeremy Smith, the pro rider out of Marmora, New Jersey, and, you know, he's a sim ripper. He's going to be one of the greatest MX Simulator players of all time, as he was voted that way. But, you know, he plays, or he rides in real life, and the dude kills. And I kind of know a little bit about his situation, but it sounds like he's got this cool new 250 Supercross deal lined up that he's going to be taking on Supercross this year in the East. So you got to keep an ear out for Jeremy Smith on the 309 Yamaha. And again, another pro guy that rips at sim, plays sim all the time, and rips in real life. It's just so unique to have these people playing. And it's kind of funny because sometimes I don't think people really realize who they're around, and not to toot my own horn because I hate it, but there's oftentimes now that I'll go in like 03, which is a very popular MX Simulator server, elsinore.mxsimulator.com 19803, and they have all the Supercross tracks in there, and like, not all the time, but there's so many times that I'll go in there with like a bunch of dudes, including like a Burkeen or a Jeremy Smith, who are professional motocross athletes, and instead there's like, oh my god, Kellen's in the server, blah 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 this, blah 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 that. And I like, it's not that I feel bad that they're not getting like noticed, but I'm just like some dude that makes videos on the internet. Like, who really cares? Like, I would much rather meet and hang out with a professional motocross athlete than just me. Like, I'm just a dude that hangs out and plays video games and talks about it, and you guys enjoy it, and that's awesome. I love the fact that you guys get involved in the community and stuff like that. But I mean, if you just knew the kind of actual real life talent was floating around you sometimes when you play these games, I think you'd be blown away. It took me aback too, because when I started playing sim, I didn't know that Checkers was a former pro motocross racer. You know, I paid attention all the time to motocross and stuff like that, but if you don't really look at the people who are kind of like beyond the 20th place position, you're not going to remember that many names, you know. So, you know, Checkers was one of those type of dudes. I didn't pay that much attention to arena cross. He was pretty good at arena cross, made mains and stuff, but never was like Buddy Antonez or anything necessarily. So when I first started hanging out and talking to Checkers, I just took him as a guy that worked for Rainbow before, and I was already, taken aback enough by that it's like, wow, here's this guy that did so much for us as video gamers to create fun environments and stuff for us to play, and I was thrilled. And then after, hanging out with him a few times and him getting to know me getting to know him, and now we're, I would say pretty good buddies and stuff like that. It came up at one point, like, oh, Checkers, like, what was it like when you were racing arena cross and stuff like that? And I'm like, whoa, what? Like, I've been talking to a former pro motocrosser this whole time. Like, that's freaking sick. So, again, like, just you play these games and you don't realize, I guess, sometimes how small the community is, if that makes sense, to the point where you're playing with people. I've ran into people playing in sim servers that I know in real life that I didn't know play sim. So, like, it's unbelievable to me that there's all this stuff that you just would never realize unless you kind of opened your eyes to the bigger reality of what's going on. And that's just like, that's one of the coolest things about sim to me, is that it truly is like diehard motocross people, to the point that you have pro motocrossers playing the game and making tracks and making bikes and stuff like that for the game. And it's definitely one of the coolest parts of the game, in my opinion. So, but yeah, let me know in the comments, guys, if you did or didn't know that. I'd love to hear maybe a story or two that you guys have about pro athletes, or any cool stories that have come up in sim that maybe you wouldn't have expected to see, or any motocross game for that matter. I mean, there's people that have been playing Rev and MVA and MCM and all that stuff long before I was involved in the moto gaming community, if that's what you want to call it. And they know about all sorts of cool factoids and stuff that I never would have guessed about people who used to play Unleashed, like freaking Jason Lawrence always getting on Xbox Live, I guess, and playing Unleashed with a bunch of kids and stuff. And like even Tyson talks about that and stuff. It's interesting. So if you guys have a cool story, I'd love to hear it. Let me know in the comments. And I hope you guys at least enjoyed this video, where I'm pretty much just babbling about pro athletes that I've met or had the privilege of talking to or know about in this game and stuff like that. But it's not all about me. I like to hear what you guys have to say, and I'd love to keep the conversation going if it's available. So if you guys like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, the usual stuff that I tend to ask you guys to do. Channel's continuing to growing. We're over 14,000 now, so I'm pretty pumped on that, just looking ahead to 15,000. And we also hit 3 million views last week, which is another number that again, if you told me when we started, Jeremy and I starting back in December of 2014, if someone told us before 2016 was over we'd hit 3 million views on the channel, I would have been like, you're kidding. So, blown away by the support, that's for sure, and can't thank you guys enough for that. But sorry for the late track walk. I know I'm terrible, but again, we'll pump out 99 tomorrow, so you guys will see that on the channel, boom, right away, and then we'll have 100 out next week, and I'm excited to show you guys what we got going for the 100th episode, and I think you guys will like it too. So join us then, and we'll see you guys later. For now,